Good morning. I just wanted to take a few minutes to try and explain how to use that emotional eating workbook that I posted in the group for you. I know that this is something that a lot of us don't necessarily realize that we're doing. Sometimes you think about overeating and you associate that with being overweight, or you think about emotional eating and you don't associate that with boredom, you associate that with sadness. So just try to break down what it actually means to eat emotionally and what you can do and in those moments and how to recognize them as they're happening. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen with you so you can see the workbook and we'll walk through it together. So hopefully this is working. Okay, so I made this originally for a support group that we did a couple months back, and it met every once a week, and we had a group chat going, and we just constantly supported each other through some of the harder times with the COVID crisis. But the idea was that week to week you had a new challenge to try and work on something about yourself. So we picked a theme song. I like the song Fight Song by Rachel Platten, and it just really, I don't know, it just really speaks to me, and I really like her voice, and it's just a good song. So if you can pick a song that you really love, that really speaks to you, it's something that you can play in a time of stress or when you are feeling down or feeling out of control or anything like that, something to get you a little bit jazzed up. So music is something that's always spoken to me, and it's always been a part of my life. Just listening, not really making music or singing or anything. I'm not good at any of those things, but I just love music. It's just a big part of my life growing up. My dad always had the radio on, so I associate songs with memories and feelings, and every era of my life has a different soundtrack, it seems. Right now we're pretty hard in the Disney soundtracks, but the other part too is writing a why statement. So a why statement, which I'll explain in the next page a little bit more, but your why should be deep enough and important enough to you that it's bigger. Your why needs to be bigger than your greatest excuses, right? So your why should make you cry. Your reason to do something has to be stronger than your excuses not to do something, even on the harder days, right? And starting a journal is always something that really helps so that you can keep track of those emotions and those triggers and all of those thoughts that are literally feeding into your emotional eating habits, okay? This says check in daily with the group, which we don't have. Well, we do have a group. You could be checking in daily with our group. And then just being active and participating and sharing your high and your low every week, and a lesson that you learned is something that we did in this support group. And I like to put a little quote at the end of every one of these pages just to lift the girls up. And this one is, imagine with all your mind, believe with all your heart, and achieve with all your might. And I've always loved that too. So I want you to understand that if you are an emotional eater, it's one of those invisible things that people don't understand. If you go to a party and somebody offers you a cookie and you say, no, thank you, I don't want a cookie, or I can't have just one cookie, people will automatically try to justify why it's okay for you to have one cookie, right? When you know in your heart, one cookie becomes sneaking cookies and it becomes 30 cookies. So if you are that person, if you can feel, if you relate to that, that certain foods are a trigger for you, that's what this is about. So your why statement, it's what sets you apart from everyone else. That's what your why is. It's your purpose. It's what inspires you to take action. And your why changes with the seasons of your life. So like my why was different before I had children. My why was different before I had type 1 diabetes. My why was different before I had a business. My why was different before I was married. Like we all have different seasons of reason and seasons of things that push us forward. And changing your why and reevaluating why you're doing something, especially when it's associated with your health, keeps it fresh too. So if you have to reevaluate your reason for doing something in each season of life, that's a good thing because that will keep you going. So you can write that there. And then this is how we evaluated our weeks. We had a high moment and a low moment, and then what we learned from it. And that was always fun well, not always fun, sometimes it was sad, but it was always good to share those moments in the group. Okay, so this is how you break down your moments. So writing down the day, right? So this is your little journal, excuse me, for how to figure out what is going on in your mind when you start to go to the pantry I call it pantry diving, when you dive in and you're just looking for something and you don't even know what, and are you even hungry, right? So the trigger type is important. So stop yourself in those moments and think, like, am I being triggered by a person? Am I being triggered by a specific event? Is it where I am? For me, my parents' house is a place that I always end up eating more. Am I being triggered by a habit? Am I sitting in front of the TV watching whatever people watch? I don't know what people watch on TV when there are no sports, sorry. Is it a specific food trigger? Like, is it salt? Is it Doritos? Is it sweets? Whatever is happening in the moment, like, is that the problem? For me, for person, it can be the kids. Like sometimes, like when the kids go to bed and I finally have a moment, I don't want to do anything else other than eat, because I feel like that's the most satisfying thing and it's better than cleaning, right? So I'm avoiding something. One, I don't want to do anything else. And two, I'm finally alone and have a moment. So to break down what and when and how, what is happening, right? And then write down your, like, just stream of consciousness, right? Like, write down, put on pants felt uncomfortable, feeling gross, feeling yucky, feeling sad, like whatever your thought stream is. Or so-and-so came home from work, right? If your husband comes home from work or somebody comes home and you feel like you didn't accomplish enough for the day, like you're working, you're managing the kids, you're whatever you're doing all day long, if you don't feel like good enough or like you've accomplished enough, I've seen even with myself, that can be a trigger. And that's the stream of consciousness that gets me into like a whole box of granola bars, right? So just knowing what is happening in your mind, like stopping yourself. Are you hungry? No. Are you actually hungry? Well, if you're not, what's wrong? And figuring out what you're actually thinking is important. So there's a bunch of those pages because we have a lot of moments. And then the second week, working out what is that list of distractions. So that's coming in the next pages. So creating a flow chart. I'm an engineer, right, by heart. So I love flow charts. So if, then, why, how, and breaking things down to, like, if you're in this situation, these are your action steps, right? I love that. That's how my brain works. So you can share how to get out of your situations or out of those triggers with the group. Like for me, when I realized that my husband was one of my triggers, when he would come home from work, I would feel useless, right? But he's just worried about whether or not the Penguins were going to trade Letang. Like, he doesn't care whether or not there's dishes in the sink, right? He had no idea what was going on. I asked him to start coming in the back door, because as soon as I could see him coming, I would start getting anxious, right? So I changed his habit so instead of seeing him coming, seeing him park the car and sit in his car on his phone for 2 minutes and then walk to the door, I could eat 700 calories in that 4.5 minutes, right? So I had him just start surprising us for a couple weeks. Just come in the back door. I don't want to know when you're home. Just come in the back door. Park down the street. Come in the back door. And he's like, okay. That made a huge difference, because then he would just walk in the door and I'd be like, oh, you're here. And I can't start shoving granola bars in my face in front of him, because he'd be like, what are you doing? Reading your why statement every day is a really good reminder for how to keep motivated and keep going. And then your list of distractions and testing them out. So like for me, having him come in a different door changed the situation, and it changed the habit that I was in also. Something else that I've done to distract myself is I'll put like everybody has a pile of papers on their counter. So you can, okay, I want a snack and I'm in the pantry and I'm like, well, why don't you go through this pile of papers on the counter first? Go through the pile of papers, find something that needs to be done, like a bill that needs to be paid or a dentist appointment I forgot about, whatever that pile of papers has, something for school, whatever, find that, do that one little thing. And by then 15, 20 minutes goes by and I forgot that I was hungry, right? Or that I was hungry, not actually hungry, but snacky and weird. Or go upstairs, fold the laundry. And after you fold that one load of laundry, then if you're still hungry, then you can have an apple with some peanut butter, right? Like breaking it down that way really helped me settle that emotional side of things. And then again, checking in daily. So here's the quote. What's this one say? There is freedom waiting for you on the breeze of the sky. And you ask, what if I fall? Oh, but my darling, what if you fly? That's one of my favorite poems. So always being worried about failing is something that I struggled with in my life, especially in the last like 8 years. And I think that if you're always worried about the fall, you're never gonna, when you take flight, you're not even gonna recognize it. And then here's the little flow chart, right? So here's, like, I wrote them very lightly so you could write over top of them, thinking that people would print them out and write in the flow chart, like nerds like me. So if this is your flow chart, what is your trigger? Is it a person, place, thing, idea, thought, whatever? Is it a food? And what's your first try at distracting? right? Did it work? Yep. Okay, you win. Did it work? Nope. Here's another distraction. Here's another distraction. Here's an emergency plan. Like maybe the emergency plan is you pick up the phone and you call someone and you be like, tell me not to eat the things. Like whatever you need to do to get out of the situation, right? And of course, there's multiple flowcharts. And then here are your lists of distractions. So like depending on where I am, I need different options for distracting myself. So if I'm at my parents' house, I can go sit on the back porch for 10 minutes and read a book, or walk around the backyard and pick up sticks, or do something to get out of the house where I grew up eating all of the things, right? I can go upstairs, I can go find the cat. I have like things that I can do, start a craft with the kids, whatever it might be. So figuring out what your options for distraction are, that really helps. And at home, one of the other things that I'll do is I'll go out the front door. I make sure I unlock the back door first. I'll go out the front door and I'll just walk around the house a couple times and I'll come in the back door, and that kind of resets my brain. There's a lot of studies that show that when you walk through doorways, your brain does different kinds of things to reset itself because it sees doorways as new beginnings, which is why when you will go from one room to the other, you'll forget why you walked in the room. So there's a short-term memory thing associated with doorways. So the more doorways you can walk through to distract yourself when you're thinking about food, the better. I know it sounds silly. So then week 3, we worked on a mantra. So like, if you've seen Happy Feet, because I have little kids, I love the movie Happy Feet, even though it's full of propaganda, I don't mind. What's your heart song, right? So what is your mantra? Find the message that your heart needs to hear every single day and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it to yourself. Keep reading that why statement, work on your flowcharts. And you are allowed to be both a masterpiece and a work in progress simultaneously. Continue to give yourself that grace, right? So what is your mantra? And a mantra can be a lot of different things. It can be, I am becoming the best person I can possibly be. I am working on being my healthiest and my best. I am, like, if you Google mindset mantras and things like that, you'll come up with so many different things. Find one that speaks to you, write it down, perfect it, memorize it, and practice it every day. That really does make a difference, even if it sounds silly. So that's all I have for you right now. I would love to hear your feedback on all of this, and hear if you've tried any of the things and how it goes for you. So please stop pounding your feet. So just let me know if you need anything, and if you need more help going through the book, the workbook, or if you want them printed out and you don't have a printer, I'll do that for you. So just let me know if you need anything. Okay, thank you.